Hi everyone, welcome to our presentation about the topic of power of humor in public administration management. It's about the effectiveness of a grassroots leader's affiliated humor. Well, let's take pictures at first. The left one is about the grassroots governance in Beijing, China, especially in the very famous districts, as we Chinese all know, it's the Chaoyang district. While the right hand one is about the frontline managers in grassroots public management. It shows that how our local leaders to use their leadership to build the relationship with residents. Well, let's move back to the year 2020. It's about 3 years ago, about the COVID-19 period. You know that the period is really very serious. It's very important issue, especially for the local government to manage their residents, manage the local people to wear masks, to not go very close to each other, and to keep the safety, the social distance. So we have so many smart local leaders in our country. They use their language strategies, especially the humorous leadership. For example, they use they see everybody in their local area, that everybody attention and nobody can see you as you wear the mask. So let's stop chatting with each other and use some very local words and sentences, such as others are too embarrassed to drive you away, so please keep the social distance. And you just applied hand cream on your face. That means in Chinese, do you really have to show off by not wearing a mask? And some also other humorous examples, like you were asked to throw stones at the dog, but you cashed away the chicken. That means whenever policy prohibited you from doing something, but you still went ahead. So like those during the epidemic, well, like those smart local governments, they have strived to effectively and scientifically implement the policy on controlling the epidemic and the safeguard of the lives of people by using those humorous and down-to-earth dialects and expressions, and really receive wonderful results, a wonderful effect. That means various amusing pictures and videos about the broadcast of affiliated leaders, they gained widespread attention on the internet, and also gained very and also get so much praise from people all over China. And grassroots leaders' humor not only promoted the public awareness of the importance of the issue, and have to obey the rule and have to comply the rule, but also elevated the psychological stress and negative emotions, and as well as improving people's subjective well-being and life experiences. So here we start to generate the idea about the effect of leader humor on the grassroots governance. That means in the public administrative management. In our study, the leader humor is a behavioral perspective. It means to a personal communication behavior enacted by a leader, that means our grassroots leaders, and intended to be amusing to the subordinates, but in our studies means the local residents, the local people. And our local people can perceive it as an intentional act. Well, according to the social identity theory, the relational identification refers to the extent of which individuals categorize or define themselves based on their role relations and link their success or failures to that of important others. So we extend this theory and the concept to the public administration management area. And we propose that the positive affiliated humor of grassroots leaders can reduce hierarchical differences and bring the community close together, create a relaxed and pleasant atmosphere and relationship to demonstrate strong attraction and impress the public with a sense of familiarity. And so everybody can get closer and will generate a public and to generate a positive public relational identification. And public relational identification with grassroots leaders will further contribute to the positive emotional and cognitive experiences. So it also will affect public satisfaction with the government. So here is our hypothesis 2. Well, combined with hypothesis 1 and 2, we generate hypothesis 3. That means the mediation of the mediation of the public relational identification in the relationship of leaders' affiliated humor and public satisfaction. In addition, we also propose the moderating role of public traditionality. This concept is which individuals accept and endorse traditional Chinese cultural values and notions of social customs, especially conformity to authority. So people with high traditionality value recognize the difference in hierarchical status between grassroots leaders and public and form the stereotype. But the low level will behave like the other side. So we think that the affiliated humor of grassroots leaders can reduce the hierarchical status difference and the social differences between the leaders and the residents, the public. So their funny and amusing behaviors will reduce the authority of leaders and not conducive to developing relational identification. So here is our hypothesis 4. That means it's the moderating effect of a public traditionality. So, and also combining the hypothesis 3 and 4, we propose that public traditionality negatively moderates the indirect effect of leader humor on satisfaction with the while the public relational identification. Okay. Let's move forward. Well, the effect of public satisfaction with government on policy, compliance, behavior, and subjective well-being is the other the two have to see the dependent variables that we want to propose. Here, our hypothesis 6 means public satisfaction with government positively affect policy complements as the key to policy success is ability to effectively influence and change people's attitude and behavior. Well, the hypothesis 7 works as the same way. We think that the high-quality public services can elevate the psychological stress and negative emotions caused by the epidemic COVID-19 and improve public life experiences well-being. So here is our whole model. We will use 3 studies to test the whole model. The study 1 is about the test sentiment analysis, while study 2 and 3 are 2 survey studies. Okay, let's move forward to let's look at the study 1. We collect data from Xinlang Weibo as a very famous website in China, and here is our data from the Xinlang Weibo. It's about around it's about a total 6,000 wave comments, and after some selecting method, we used almost 2,000 pieces of information to analyze their sentiment, and the results showed as figure 2. That means when we search for the humorous language in grassroots management, that means village shouting, village had as a loudspeaker, what village had broadcasting, and we found that some news and some informations about this are about the positive emotion significantly over the negative emotions, negative comments. So I think when those broadcasting, like the pictures we showed at the beginning, that really has a positive effect. Well, study 2 is about the very a traditional study. So we tested the affiliated humor, the relational identification, and traditionality and government satisfaction. All the 4 variables were used by the well-developed skills. And here is our results from the sample of 273 people. That from the table we can show that hypothesis 1, 2, 3, 4 almost has already been supported, and also the moderation effect. The results from study 2 supports the relationship between grassroots leaders' affiliated humor and the public satisfaction through public relational identification, and also supported the public individual traditionalities moderating effect. The simple slope figure like here. So really like the low traditionality, like this bar, like this line, we can see a relatively sharp line here. But in study 2, we didn't test the 2 variables as policy, complex behavior, and subjective well-being, because we put it in study 3. In study 2, we only use the 1 wave data. But in study 3, and after we found the results, we just use a 3 wave selection data, and finally use those measurements. So these variables are the same with study 2, but compliance behavior and subjective well-being, we also use the well-developed skill, such as policy compliance behavior. Here is the example items. I am willing to comply with the various requirements of the epidemic prevention and control system. Like, I adopt behaviors in accordance with various requirements of the epidemic prevention and control system. And they all show very good Colombar's alpha coefficient. So here is the whole model has been tested. Well, in study 3, the whole model, let's see the moderating fact here, like the pictures in the right. Well, when high traditionality, people with a lot of humor, they can also have the effect on relational identification, but it seems to be a little harder than that people with low traditionality. That means maybe low traditionality are more sensitive to the sense of humor in this study. Well, here table 6 showed the moderated mediation effect. Well, let's come to the end of our presentation. Here is the general discussion. We found that grassroots leaders' affiliated humor has a positive effect on public relational identification with grassroots leaders, in turn, increasing public satisfaction with the government. And public relational identification with grassroots leaders played a partially mediating role in the relationship. Moreover, public traditionality negatively moderated the indirect effect of grassroots leaders' affiliated humor on public satisfaction. And the last but not the least, public satisfaction with the government ultimately promoted policy compliance behavior and subjective well-being. Theoretical contributions and practical implications are listed here. First, we think that this study introduces leadership humor in the context of grassroots public management based on the two-wheel model and explores the impact of affiliated humor. Well, secondly, our study contributes a little bit on social identity theory. And thirdly, our study used the very traditional Chinese culture that treat the concept traditionality so as the moderating variable, especially has some very specific contextual contribution. And practical implications are located on the such as the have to improve the local management by using leadership, by using especially the leader humor behavior. And secondly, our study emphasizes the public relational identification. And so our government and our management emphasis on the concept service, to put more services, to provide more services. So appropriate use of humor is a good strategy to increase the quality of our service. Thirdly, our study showed the traditionality negatively moderates the influence of leader humor and the public satisfaction. So we think that for highly traditional people, grassroots leaders can give full play to good sense of order brought by tradition and provide effective guidance. So this is the implication from individual differences. Well, our study adopts the method of cross-sectional research and all variables in the self-report way. Here is our very important limitation. And future studies may also use multi-source and multi-point data collection, because our study 2 is only one-point data collection, but our study 3 is a three waves data selection, and also some relationship or some the relationship between different concepts has to be explained more clearly in the future studies. So here is the end of our presentations. Thanks so much for Thank you everyone, and really appreciate this opportunity to give this presentation. For some reasons, we three authors cannot physically be here. It's really our pity, and do not hesitate to contact me by this email. And thank you so much. Thanks again.